Civil liberties. Personal guarantees and freedoms that government cannot abridge by law, constitution, or judicial interpretation.
Civil rights provide freedom from arbitrary or discriminatory treatment by government or individual.
The 14th Amendment. Rights guarantee privileges and immunities of citizenship, due process, and equal protection. State and federal citizenship for all persons regardless of race, both born or naturalized in the United States, was reaffirmed. No state would be allowed to abridge the privileges and immunities of citizens.
No person was allowed to be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. No person could be denied equal protection of the laws. Selective incorporation, a judicial doctrine whereby most but not all protections found in the Bill of Rights are made applicable to the states via the 14th Amendment.
The Supreme Court chose to use selective incorporation as a means to incorporate the Bill of Rights into the 14th Amendment to prevent the states from abridgment of our fundamental rights. The First Amendment establishes that Congress cannot establish an official religion or prevent anyone from practicing their personal religion. The Second Amendment states that Congress cannot pass laws to disarm state militias or individual citizens of their rights to personal weapons to protect themselves from outside threats or the government themselves. The Third Amendment restricts Congress from quartering soldiers in private homes without the owner's consent unless during wartime. The Fourth Amendment protects citizens from searches and seizures within their homes and property without a federal warrant. The Fifth Amendment provides citizens the guarantee that in cases involving felonies, that a grand jury, which is a group of citizens charged with determining if the defendant is guilty or not, must be present.
The Sixth Amendment guarantees an accused person the right to an attorney to represent them in court. The Seventh Amendment states that in suits exceeding damages of $20 or more, that trial by jury shall be preserved and that the decision of the jury shall not be re-examined by any court in the United States. The Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishment, which includes torture to all persons, not just citizens. The Ninth Amendment indicates that rights not specifically stated in the Constitution belong to the people. The 10th Amendment sets the principle of federalism by stating that the federal government not only has the powers stated by the Constitution, and all other rights are those of the states and the people.
Affirmative action gave minority groups within society equal opportunities to the majority groups in situations of employment, public affairs, such as school and government programs.
The largest group to fight for African American equality is the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, which formed in 1909.
The Civil Rights Act of 1964, which ended segregation and discrimination of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, was a result of years of civil rights movements, one of which the Million Man March, which was led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
The major step for women was the Seneca Falls Convention in 1848, which passed resolutions demanding the abolition of legal, economic, and social discrimination against women. A major organization for women was the National American Women's Suffrage Association, which was headed by Susan B. Anthony, which focused mostly on securing women's suffrage or voting. In 1917, NASA, the newer National Women's Party, were able to convince Congress to ratify the 19th Amendment, which guaranteed all women the right to vote.
In 1990, veterans convinced Congress to pass the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. It extended the protections of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to all citizens with physical or mental disabilities.
By 1920, the Latina and Hispanic citizens created the League of Latin American Citizens, LULAC, which fought racially segregated West Coast schools and discriminatory hiring at the railroads.
In 1962, Cesar Chavez founded the National Farm Workers Association, and in 1965 he and his members began a boycott on grape growers that took advantage of Latin and Hispanic workers.
By 1975, and the 1965 Voting Rights Act was extended to guarantee the Latin and Hispanic Americans the right to register.
In 1993, Bill Clinton compromised with Congress and military leaders with the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy.
In 2010, a federal district court judge ruled the DADT unconstitutional. In 2012, President Obama repealed the Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
In 1868, Congress passed a law allowing free migration from China because workers were needed to complete building an intercontinental railroad.
1882, Congress passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, which was the first act to restrict the immigration of any identifiable nationality.
By 1922, the court took a step backward, ruling that Asian and Pacific Island Americans were not white and therefore not entitled to full citizenship rights.
In 1988, Congress passed the Civil Liberties Act, which apologized to the interned and their descendants and offered reparations to them and their families.